welcome on into another episode of Road to Tokyo. He has dominated the Commonwealth Games stage. He's looking to do the same at the Olympics, and soon he will make his pro debut. Joining me today is New Zealand boxer David Nyika. Kia ora, David.
Kia ora. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. I'm really interested to hear about your boxing journey here, especially with your pro debut on the cards, but we will get into that a little later. Let's start with your road to Tokyo. Excuse the pun. Take us back to March 2020 when you literally had to, journey around the world to qualify for the Games. Describe that moment.
Yeah, it was a bit of a I don't know. I don't think I'm allowed to swear on the show, but no, it wasn't great. It was pretty bumpy, but we got there in the end. There was a bunch of hoops we had to jump through in order to get to the qualifiers. And then to actually qualify was a massive achievement for me. But yeah, I'm just happy to be here, and I think the journey's really kind of been dragged out, and it's been pretty tough, I guess. Yeah. And I think a lot of other athletes are in the same boat. But hey, I'm one of the ones that kind of like made the qualification, so yeah, happy to be here. Yeah,
big tick. Now, of course, the road was quite bumpy because March 2020, if we can all remember, COVID was just starting to hit the world, and you're trying to qualify for an Olympic Games outside of the country. So how tough was that, and what kind of, procedural things, if there were any back then, did you and the team have to take?
Yeah, I kind of waffle around the subject because I honestly can't even remember all the hoops we had to jump through. We initially had a camp in Thailand before we were scheduled to fly into Wuhan, China for the qualifiers. And I think it was 2 days before we flew out of this training camp that the virus had spread and like taken over Wuhan pretty much. And so they said, oh, well, we have to pull the plug. And from there, we got sent home, and we were kind of like, okay, so what now? Yeah. And they basically, within a week or so, they'd rescheduled the qualifier for Amman, Jordan. And so we're like, okay. Right. So reset, and then we found a training camp in Italy, which I don't know if you remember was the second place the virus hit.
That's right.
And spread through. So as soon as we got to this training camp in Italy, the borders started closing down, the airports started closing down, and we had to, I think we were kind of trying to do it on the sneaky. We're trying to sneak out of Rome into Amman, Jordan, with the consent from the Jordanian Internal Affairs or whatever, the Olympic Committee. I don't really know all the ins and outs, but I just remember being at the airport holding our national coach's phone, trying to send these over WhatsApp, send these files to the Jordanian Olympic Committee, then back to New Zealand, and they didn't have Wi-Fi, and it was pretty chaotic.
Wow. And I mean, you're there trying to get there to qualify for what I'm guessing is, one of your dreams in your boxing career, and you're worrying about this. What did it feel like when you finally got over the line and you're like, okay, after all of that, I've done it?
Yeah, it was. So I lost my granddad in the week leading up to the final, which is just another one of those obstacles that kind of make everything a little bit more, a little bit tougher. But it did make the end result that much sweeter, and I knew he would have been super proud. But yeah, just to get through all that, it was pretty surreal. But yeah, I wouldn't like to have to do it again. That's why this whole process being drawn out has made it so much more difficult. I having qualified and coming home, and I think that it would have been the day after we got home from the qualifiers that New Zealand went into lockdown. Yeah. So. And in some regards we were lucky, but in other ways it was kind of stink because I didn't get to see my family, I didn't get to celebrate with my friends, and then once the postponement was announced of the Olympics, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, at least I've qualified, and so I was still riding this high. Yeah. And then it wasn't until we came out of lockdown that I was like, oh wow, this is going to be another year of hard slog. And I've been I was struggling leading up to the qualifiers, just with my sanity, really. Like kind of working towards this massive goal that had been so elusive until then, and then to have attained a big chunk of my goal, which is just qualifying for the Olympics. And now I've got the challenge of drawing this dream out for another year, when I had really intended to turn professional 4 or 5 years ago, you know. Now it's just added an extra year. So, yeah, kind of annoying, but I think we're probably in the best place in the world right now to be just to be living, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of our athletes are struggling with, you know, being so isolated on this side of the world, but, you know, we could be having a much crappier time.
That's it. Well, in comparison to the rest of the world, right? I mean, the announcement came that, you know, Tokyo 2020 wouldn't be taking place last year. Other athletes have spoken about, you know, when you prepare for an Olympics, you get to a point, you know, before the date where you're peaking and you're good to go. Were you kind of in a boat where, you know, when you hit the reset button, I mean, where do you go to from here? It's hard to even ask the question.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like, with boxing, the qualification is so close to the actual Olympic Games. And to be quite honest, there was no way I was going to be able to peak within the next 2 months for the Olympic Games. So boxing is just one of those sports where you have to be able to like roll with the punches. Sorry to be like lame, but you kind of have to be able to just adapt to whatever's thrown at you. And so this was another one of those things. The only difference is we fight for 9 minutes, but this is going to take a whole extra year, you know. And it's always been a tough sport, but it's so much easier when you're enjoying it, you know. So the fact that we're able to train with our friends, with our training partners, we're able to travel and compete still is a massive deal. So yeah, I'm really positive about that, and I'm looking forward to the next few months, especially with some exciting stuff in the works.
Yeah, cool. So essentially you've become the 31st New Zealand athlete to qualify for boxing for the Olympics in New Zealand.
Oh, that's news to me. That's pretty cool.
You're welcome.
Sweet.
I mean, how long has this been a dream for you? Or, I mean, you've competed at the Commonwealth Games, you've, you know, competed well, you've won medals, but how long has the Olympics been a dream for you?
Yeah, probably since I was like a little kid. I remember when I was I might have been 12 years old. I was running. I was doing cross country and road running, and I realised that the world champion at the time, Haile Gebrselassie, was 5'3", and he was the marathon world record holder. And I was like, well, I'm 5'3". I think I'm going to be a marathon runner. I think I'm going to win a gold medal at the Olympics for the marathon. And now 6'4" or something, that's kind of gone out the window. But I've always wanted to be an athlete. I've always wanted to represent New Zealand. I've always wanted to, I guess, use whatever talents I have to the best of my ability. And, you know, I've got a supportive family and obviously a great network in New Zealand, where, you know, you've got such great talent and such great support from the public. It's such an honour just to be able to do this. So I guess that's one of the huge motivators for so many young Kiwi athletes, is knowing that they can, that they're that close to, you know, being an international athlete. Yeah.
What's the latest that you've heard from the IOC about, you know, going to Tokyo this year? Because it's still not signed, sealed and delivered, is it? Yeah.
I kind of had to check out, to be honest. I was kind of in a place where I was like, if I read into too much of what's going on and the politics of, you know, we put this much money into the Olympics and this is why it has to happen and this is why it can't happen. It's like, it's not my job. You know, my job's to punch people in the face. So it's the kind of sport where if you divide your attention and start sending it elsewhere, it can be pretty dangerous, like literally. So I'm very aware that I only have a finite bandwidth. You know, I can't really pay too much attention to that. But as far as I'm concerned, it's happening, and I'm just gonna roll with that. So I obviously just have to be as prepared as I can be. And yeah, like I said, we're in a great position to be able to compete and train across the nation.
Well, another great advantage that you have with this is the decision to have your first pro fight as well. When I first heard that you were having your pro debut, I was like, oh, wow, like after all of this, he's not going to go to the Olympics? You know, that was my first thought. Yeah. And I think it was a thought for many others as well. Just explain how it's possible for you to make your pro debut and still compete at the Olympics.
Yeah, so I think from 2016 at the Rio Olympics, they first started introducing professional boxers into the amateur boxing scene. But the issue was that a lot of the professional boxers, they were accustomed to a slightly different style of boxing, a slightly faster pace, and a lot of them didn't actually couldn't qualify for the Olympics because of obviously the skill level, and it's a different sport. But this time around, a lot of amateur boxers have realised, oh, okay, we have the opportunity to turn professional, make a bit of coin, and still go to the Olympics. And as you can imagine, at times like these with COVID and whatnot, you know, financially it makes a lot of sense to make a bit of coin and achieve this massive dream, which is an Olympic Games. So I wasn't sure about it at first because I really wanted to, you know, have a clear black and white, you know, I'm amateur today and I'm professional tomorrow. Yeah. But I've been a professional amateur for the last 6 years. 6 years I've been a professional amateur. I've been doing this for a living. So I kind of had to, I don't know, eat my pride a little bit and actually make the decision to have a pro bout and start, kind of kickstart my professional career and my professional journey. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects me down the line, but it's just a gamble, and that's what the sport's all about.
It's especially during these times as well. I mean, that's all you really can do. I remember talking to you, I think it was Commonwealth Games time, where you were, you know, there was a bit of a throw up as to whether boxing would even make the games back then, with the news that was going around with boxing at that time. So it's not like this is, you know, shock horror. No. We all knew that, you know, eventually David Nyika was going to make it to make his pro debut. How did the opportunity present itself to you? Did you, you know, put yourself forward to promoters that this is the path you wanted to take? Were you approached, or how did it happen?
I've kind of always had people in the background that have I guess expressed their interest in me joining you know, their promotions or whatever. But it kind of, to be honest, I don't even remember. It's quite anticlimactic, you know.
Oh.
But yeah, it's boring. But no, it was. I'd been talking to Joseph for quite a while, and he was kind of telling me about the. Well, I guess he was basically just being. He was concerned that you know, a lot of boxers get mistreated in that transition from amateur to professional boxing. So to have him actually approach me and say, hey, like, if you ever need anything, just let me know. And I guess it kind of stemmed from that. You know, I got talking to his promoter, David Higgins, and it looked like an opportunity that would be really beneficial to me. I guess being in a minority sport in a small nation where, you know, I've got 2, maybe 3 opponents across the board that I've already beaten. It's quite hard to see how I'm going to get the best development leading up to the Olympics. So then I realised, I was like, well, there are a lot of professional boxers out there, and you know, what better way to prepare for an Olympic Games than to fight against some tough guys. And obviously the sport's slightly different. It's not as different as people would guess, because it's, you know, it's still like hand to face kind of thing. But yeah, I've basically just decided that I'm going to get better competition, turning professional, and I might even make a bit of money. So yeah. It's great.
Win-win.
Yeah.
The professional boxing world, as you well know, is very, very different to the amateur world. And I know you haven't had your debut yet, but have you experienced any of those differences yet? I know with your fight coming up next month, there's already a bit of drama, there's already the verbal sparring, a lot of media attention, which isn't so prevalent in your amateur boxing career. So how do you deal with that?
I don't know, actually. I'm going to find out as I go, I think.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to take the nice guy approach. I don't think I can be... I don't think it's healthy to try to be anyone that you're not. So, you know, I always wish my opponents the very best when I fight them. And when money's involved, I hope, you know, like, they can make it home safe and they can feed their families. And I don't know if, like, obviously that's what I want to do for a living, and I have to do that better than everyone else. But to compromise, you know, my integrity and who I am, that's not something that I'm interested in doing. You know, I'm quite happy with, I guess, just being Dave. But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, and like I got like goosebumps, and I started sweating, and then I started shaking when I started hearing the banter go up, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty exciting." But yeah, no, it's all fun and games, really.
It's very, I mean, again, compared to the amateur ranks, you know, a lot of it is entertainment driven, and I don't think we really have that nice guy, I hope you go home to your family and be safe kind of character yet. So this might work in your favour.
It might, it might not. No, I think it will. I think it will, because the difference is that I guess I have a platform to actually, you know, show the nicer side of a very like violent and brutal sport. And I think a lot of the time, those nice guys don't actually speak up, and they don't. Obviously, it's not entertaining a lot of the time. So if I can make it entertaining, then I'll do that. You know, and it also helps being good at what I do. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm gonna, you know, sell myself, but I'm gonna do it in a way that maintains my integrity.
David Nice Guy Nyika, perhaps.
I'm trying to get the handle off Instagram. Yeah. I found the guy, but I'm gonna have to message him and be like, "Hey, can I like have your name?" But yeah, I'm straight up. I'm dead serious. I've had a look at it. Yeah. I think it's got a ring to it. I haven't. Yeah. There's Nyika. The Nice Guy Nyika.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See, that does it.
Yeah.
You're welcome. This is my job.
Yeah.
Thinking about the logistics of things, because when you go into the pro world, of course, you're having a coach and a manager and promoters, and there's a lot of external input into what happens on a fight night and your build-up. I'm not too sure if I'm right in saying this, but you've pretty much been your own coach for a little while?
Yeah,
so how does that all work?
It's been about three and a bit years. I've been pretty much self-managed. You know, I've organised sparring for straight after this podcast, and I've kind of taken it into my own hands to like decide how the best way is to develop into the best athlete I can be. So it's been pretty tough. Obviously, it takes a lot more self-management, a bit of like more responsibility, obviously. But it's been okay. I've been humbled by the sport, and I say that wherever I go. It's like one of those sports that if you've been around it long enough, you know, you've had your ass kicked a little bit, and it's really hard not to be humbled by that experience. So yeah, I guess I've really just had to grow up and just figure it out as I go. And I'm still not sure what I'm doing most of the time, but it seems to be working. So yeah, that's a positive.
Talking about your camp at the moment, you're currently training with Cairo George, who many New Zealanders know on the boxing scene as well. So talk about camp and how that's all been going. Yeah,
so Cairo's been a great addition to my camp, and I've more so kind of inserted myself into his space, and he's been a really great guy to have around in terms of being more of a friend than a coach. You know, we're a gym of fighters, and so we know how each other. Well, I guess we know how we operate, and so having someone that isn't so much an authority over me is a real positive. You know, because I've been doing this for 11 years next month now, so I know exactly what works for me and what doesn't, and to have someone that kind of allows for that kind of movement is really good. And obviously I've got my brother and my father both looking after me, my strength and conditioning coach, and I've got my manager, and I've got quite a tight-knit team at the moment, and I'm quite happy with that. But I guess looking past 2021, I'll probably be looking to go abroad and kind of look at finding another gym or just another environment that will bring the best out of me, I guess. Because like I said, we are quite isolated here in New Zealand, and boxing isn't a massive sport. Like Joseph, for example, goes and lives in Vegas to get the best sparring, to get. I guess he just has better access to better training. So that's definitely something that I'll look at in the near future. But at the moment, I'm kind of, like I said, I've just been making do, and this extra year has just made that little bit harder. But I'm really hoping that it'll make the reward just that little bit sweeter.
It's always good to have a little backup plan, you know.
Exactly.
It's important in any sporting person's career, especially. You've mentioned Joseph Parker a couple of times, and you have been a sparring partner for him. You've been a sparring partner for nearly all our top-class heavyweights in the country right now. Have things changed now that you've become perhaps the shark in the tank with them all, as far as possible opponents in the future goes?
I don't think so. I think I'll, at least the first half of my career will be as a cruiserweight, which is the division just below that. But I like to think that I'm a good addition to their camps, and having worked with just about all of the top guys in the heavyweight division, I know that we've got so much talent through this country. So I think there are going to be more exciting times to come. And yeah, I think I'm a small shark.
Baby
I thrash
shark.
around a lot. Yeah, baby shark. I'm just thrashing around in the tank. But it's been great working with all those guys. And yeah, I look forward to getting more work with all of them. But yeah, I guess it does become, you know, there's a business behind it all, and so all of a sudden you don't want to be stepping on certain people's toes at the wrong time, you know. So, baby shark.
It's exciting. It's exciting to know that we have another, you know, great New Zealand boxer. I mean, you've been around for ages, but to know that, you know, there's another, you know, it's rolling over, and there's another great surge of boxers coming through, because long has it been, you know, the heavyweights have pretty much kind of dominated New Zealand boxing sport in terms of attention and lights. So you get a bit of attention now. Yeah. Well,
I think the cruiserweight division's starting to light up across the world, and it's quite open at the moment. So it's not a long distance to the world title, and I don't think it'll take more than 5 years to get to the top. So that's why this year was kind of like, really want to get stuck in. So. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting few years, but I'm looking forward to putting on some great shows for the New Zealand public, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Your opponent hasn't been announced yet, but what can you tell us about this person that will be stepping in the ring with you next month?
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to scare him off, but at the moment we've found a guy that's undefeated, and he's tough and he's durable. So. That was kind of one of the most important things for me, was that I'll have someone that can actually bring the best out of me. But yeah, it's going to be it'll be a pretty straightforward game plan, and I kind of just always try to do what I do best, as opposed to adapting to other people's styles. So it should be fun.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to get the W on debut?
Oh, you have to. You definitely have to. I think there'd be a lot of people would be pretty upset if I didn't win on my debut. So obviously that's always you know, there's always going to be pressure in boxing, but that's kind of what makes or breaks an athlete. And I've been doing it for, I think I've had 94 fights now. So it's like I feel like an old head. I've still got my brain still intact, thank goodness. But yeah, I've been around the sport long enough to not let that pressure get to me.
Good. Well, spoken like a true professional. In terms of the IOC, though, the Nationals next weekend, Boxing Nationals, will be held in Wellington. What will be your participation in that next weekend? Yeah,
so I'll be turning up, and I'll be weighing in. I'll be marking my territory, even if there's no one else there. But I'm looking forward to just catching up with the New Zealand boxing community. I feel like it's been a long time since we kind of all got together. So yeah, it'll be great just to catch up with everyone. And if I get a fight or two, that'd be great. But otherwise, yeah, I'll be training right through and then back into Joseph Parker's camp.
Exciting times ahead for you, David. Can't wait to see what comes of this year. Really hoping that the Olympics takes off for you. This is, you know, this is the year for you. Well, it's supposed to be 2020, but all the very best for the year ahead.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Cheers.
And whānau, don't forget that next weekend, January 20th to the 23rd, will be the New Zealand Boxing Nationals. This will be streamed live on Sky Sport Next. The finals will be live on Sky Sport 9. Thank you for joining us. Hei kona mai.